And I think that's the thing we've talked about before about like kind of, why do a remake unless you're going to do something kind of, bring something to it or add a, new dimensions like that. So I think with that, that's a great transition, of course, to the Cobra Kai. Let's talk about that. Like kind of,
Yes. Yeah. Now this is like, I mean, yeah, what a great reboot. This is really how you do a reboot, in my opinion. And it's interesting that it's so close in time to the Karate Kid movie, because you can see like two approaches of how to do a reboot and how not to do it on both sides. But yeah, I mean, I thought Cobra Kai was really clever. The fact that they did the whole thing from Johnny's side of the story, the role reversal. But I mean, I think what I really got out of it was that it had the shades of nostalgia, like Stranger Things. There's obviously a lot of callbacks to the 80s.
Absolutely.
But the difference with this one, which I thought was really good, was that rather than just doing nostalgia for nostalgia's sake, which was what Stranger Things has, Stranger Things could be set in any time period, really. It doesn't actually need to be set in the 80s.
Right.
Whereas this took the social problems of today for teenagers and actually tried to resolve them using solutions from the 80s almost. Like, which I thought was, like the comments about cyberbullying. I thought that was so great when well, what a cowardly way to bully someone. In my day, you did it face. I thought that's, that was really good. And this idea that you have to kind of stand up for yourself and fight and things like this, and you don't kind of frame your existence through a screen. Which I think was quite a strong theme in it. If you notice, like Johnny is completely out of touch with all technology.
That's a great point. Yeah,
he doesn't frame his self-image by technology or anything. He's just himself, and his self-image is based in the 80s, but it hasn't really changed, and it hasn't been altered by anything. And I don't know if this is coincidence or if this is just the writers trying to do some more, but it, as he starts learning how to use a laptop and a phone and stuff, that's pretty much when things start going downhill for him. Say as well, spoiler alert as usual with our talk. But yeah, so I think that's kind of both in a sort of in a sort of a way in which he thinks, an ideological way. In fact, and how he lives his life is completely trapped in the 80s. So it's trying to make it very, very hammer the point home that that's where his ideas come from.
Yeah, I think that's a great part of the Cobra Kai series is just basically this issue that like, okay, it's great to have nostalgia, it's great to kind of learn from your past, but holding on to it, as like you said, Johnny starts out doing, it's kind of like where he's this kind of guy who like feels he's a loser and all that kind of stuff. He hasn't let go of the past in the way that he needs to and stuff. And that's one kind of key component is like kind of just this issue of like, okay, unless you move on, your life is not going to go on, and you're not going to go anywhere near your potential where you need to be, stuff like that. And meanwhile, we have Daniel LaRusso, who he's like successful business. He's got this family that's for the most part thriving and happy, stuff like that. But that's an interesting point too, right? Where like even like the kid, the boy is this kind of almost like a mirror image of the things that like kind of are bad about current technology and stuff like that. So even though he's moved forward, that's like a shade of like kind of how things are not so positive, because he's constantly buried in his like kind of games and that kind of stuff. He has no interest in outside activity, much less social activity, stuff like that. And I think that's like also like kind of like just that we're seeing how like the writers are very much recognizing that like, okay, not everything about the the future or the present, stuff like that is necessarily, technology is necessarily good. And I think that's like kind of a great kind of mirror image. And speaking of mirror image, that's another part about all this too, is that we're seeing kind of like going from the original series to now, we're a key part about this, now we're seeing Johnny's story. We're seeing a lot more of like kind of how he became who he is. And I think that's like like to me, like a great reason for why this series is being made, is like kind of show that like, you know, different times we went from this the original series where we had like a clear cut black and white, and even Johnny says it himself about like, you know, this idea about like, you know, you learn that the world isn't black and white. There's many shades of gray,
Yeah.
and he's saying that like, you know, that's how, you know, you have to kind of you know, live with that as well. You know, rather than kind of seeing the world as like kind of, you know, win or lose, black or white, that kind of thing.
Yeah, and I think that was kind of what was portrayed in the original movie, was that, you know, he was just the archetypal school bully,
Yeah.
and Daniel was the, you know, the poor kid who's the sort of the victim in it. But I think the fact that you know, they've decided to explore the, you know, the psychology behind, you know, what makes a bully, and also interestingly that they kind of, there's an I think when we talk about how, like, Daniel LaRusso's kids and how they're turning out in Cobra Kai, you wonder if it's sort of like, you have to look at what's wrong with modern society, but also what's kind of wrong with success to some degree, because, you know, he's become a somewhat disingenuous car salesman. This guy who loved cars and loved karate, he's kind of you know, you get this kind of feeling that he's lost his sort of passion and become a bit of a kind of a company man, so to speak, because it's only when he starts doing the karate school that, and he realizes how fun and how meaningful that is, that he starts basically letting go of all the other stuff, which is kind of an interesting thing, because he does come across, I mean, Ralph Macchio does a very good job of portraying Daniel LaRusso when he's older as being a little bit of a kind of a slimy car salesman,
right,
with these, you know, he's really managed to, they're not over the top, but he's done it very subtly. I think it's quite,
I mean,
there's a lot more genuine in it, I would say.
Yeah, and that's another kind of interesting flipping of the script, is like kind of, you know, the original series, you know, Johnny's the rich kid and, you know, Danny Russo's the poor kid, right, coming up and stuff like that. And then now we have it the other way around, and you know, so it just kind of like, just so many different things that we see, like kind of the mirror image thing over and over again. And of course, with the two students and stuff like that, right, where, I mean, you know, that was brilliant, having the, you know, Johnny's kid basically end up, you know, being under, you know, Daniel for, you know, as a student, stuff like that. And meanwhile, what I thought was like an interesting kind of, I don't know, irony, I guess. It's like kind of where Miguel, right, is this poor kid who Johnny takes under his wing and everything like that. And it's funny how, like, you know, I don't know, like, I never get the sense of that, like, he sees it at, like, you know, I'm basically training Daniel, like, kind of, you know, like the very kid that I made fun of, you know, in the original series and stuff like that. That's who I took under my wing and everything. And by doing that, you know, he's like kind of really seeing more of, you know, like kind of Daniel's world, so to speak. And, you know, like kind of, and that relationship that we see, like you said, is kind of like, on one hand, he's trying to be the father that he wasn't to his own son, but also, like, it's kind of like then reawakening something else in him, that, like, you know, he's seen more of the shades of gray. He's seeing, like, he starts saying things like, you know, just winning for the sake of it, you know, like kind of, you know, no mercy and stuff like that. That's not cool. Like, kind of, you know, that's without honor and everything.